I'm not sure this is a good idea. Have I already been filmed? Because you see, I'm not sure that it's a good idea for me. I beg your pardon. I'm not sure that it's a good idea for my face to appear on. Where will this be broadcast?
Euronews.
I beg your pardon?
Euronews. It's a European news channel. Broadcast
I'm very sorry, but
okay.
I don't. I really do prefer
if you
my
make
face.
footages not to show your face.
Can you give me your word as an honorable man that you will not show my face?
You can check it.
All right. Then, if you please. Yes, not to show my face.
Your face is already well known.
Well, but it will be even better known if I appear on camera. I'm not sure my face is so well known.
Are you concerned about problems exiting the country?
Problems with while I'm here or exiting the country, yes. I would prefer that my face not be known.
How many people made it to the meeting in the end?
There are about 70 there out of an expected registration of about 130, 135. So it's really a pretty good turnout despite the efforts that the Hungarian government has taken to prevent this from happening.
How many people were arrested apart from Richard?
It's my understanding that he's the only person who was, well, I've heard of one other person that was detained by the police, but he's the only one I know of for sure, is Richard Spencer. But I believe that one other person was detained and was taken away. But that was, of course, yesterday evening. I wasn't present at that. Have you spoken to anyone who was there and can tell you?
I was there myself. I actually spent the whole evening negotiating with Richard, trying to get him to let me in. And after about 2 hours, I finally won him over.
Oh, you did?
And then about 10 to 15 minutes after that, the police showed up.
I see.
Thus proving my point that the media were his best defense against that sort of thing happening. But then, then they arrested him before he could tell you.
Well,
so
I should probably let you come. At least if you had verbal. But it took you 2 hours to persuade him?
No, it didn't. No, it just like
right.
and then I was interviewing him, and I just kept returning to that point.
Do you have any information about Richard Spencer?
We've heard nothing from Richard Spencer.
So he must be at police.
Well, he must be at the police. As you know, when he was picked up, he didn't have his passport. And so I don't see how he can very easily be deported to any neighboring country. No one is going to accept him if he doesn't have his passport. And so far as I know, the police have not yet made any attempt to go back to his lodging and retrieve his passport. So just what is going on with Richard, I don't know. We've not received any kind of word from him since his arrest.
Is there any attendant who tried to come here but turned back from the airport?
So far as I know, no one who tried to come has been turned back. The only person who was turned back is the chairman of the National Policy Institute. That's William Regnery. And when he was coming in to Hungary, he was turned back. However, it was a slightly unusual case for him because he is an official organization. He's officially part of that organization. And we have reason to believe that the Hungarian authorities were aware of what flight he was on.
Did you meet any Hungarian authority, policeman or something?
No, I've met no one.
Do you have experience on the conference that somebody's trying to watch you, to listen to you?
Do you mean, does it appear that someone is watching this conference? Is that your question?
Yeah.
Not so far as I can tell, no. We are simply meeting and having a very congenial time, and so far as I can tell, no one is trying to observe us. I must say, I myself have had unfortunate experiences with conferences that have been canceled, but that has only been when I had contracted with a private hotel management company, for example, and then the leftists will put so much pressure on the hotel that they will cancel the contract. But it is unprecedented for us, from the United States at any rate, to have tried to organize a conference of this kind and have the actual government authorities tell us that we are forbidden to do so.
Did you have any Hungarian participants on your conference?
Initially, there was to be a member of parliament from Jobbik who was to speak, but he withdrew from the conference.
So who it was?
It was
Gyongyoshi?
Márton Gyongyoshi, Hungarian
Yes.
MP.
Yes.
When did he cancel?
Several days ago, I think must have been 3 or 4 or 5 days.
Did he give a reason?
I'm not aware of that. I never expected to be master of ceremonies on this occasion. After all, Richard Spencer was arrested only last night. And so he was handling all of these matters, and he was to preside over our little gathering.
And no other Hungarian participants? No?
I don't know. No other Hungarian participants had been scheduled.
And no one visited your conference from Hungary?
Oh, there are people from Hungary who are attending the conference, certainly, yes.
How many?
I don't know for sure. Not a huge number, but there certainly are Hungarians who are attending. I'm not sure it even makes sense to call it a conference at this point. It may be a delicate legal matter. If a conference has been forbidden, then we're not having a conference.
What other countries are represented?
Well, England, Norway, Germany, Austria, Sweden, Australia, the United States, and those are only the countries that I can think of. Oh, Spain, there are some Spaniards there, yes. But I don't know about Mexico. Are you sure of Mexico?
I met the Japanese gentleman last night. The Japanese Mexican.
Oh.
I think I met a Japanese gentleman just now, but no, last night there was a Mexican guy who told Richard that he'd come all the way from Mexico just for this.
Is he a balding fellow?
Don't think so. We were sitting in the sort of dark corner of the bar. I couldn't see him that well.
All right, but you see, I by no means do I know all of the participants. I suspect that there are people from many other countries as well.
What do you think all of you have in common?
What we all have in common is the conviction that Europe is, in fact, in a life and death struggle, and that Europe cannot remain European without Europeans. And we believe that to the extent that Europeans, and by this term I mean broadly people of European origin wherever they're living, in New Zealand or Canada or Australia or the United States, to the extent that these people are replaced by non-Europeans, then our culture and our way of life is threatened. So we believe deeply in the value of our own heritage as Europeans, and we wish to preserve it. I think that I can safely say that everyone who is attending this conference believes this.
So what does the conference consist of? You have different.
The plan would have been to have I think there were about 10 speakers planned. But a number of them were told by their own national authorities that the Hungarian government had said that if they set foot in Hungary, that they would be arrested immediately. It's my understanding that was the case for 2 participants, Alexander Dugin and Philippe Vardon. Dugin, of course, is Russian, and Vardon is a Frenchman. Vardon is one of the leaders of the identitarian movement in France. And I don't have this directly from them, but I have it on good authority, that they were visited by their national police authorities and told, the Hungarians have instructed us to tell you that if you set foot in Hungary, you will be arrested. Frankly, I find this extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary, especially in the case of Philippe Vardon, who is a Frenchman. It's a member of the Schengen group. And so far as I know, he has never, ever had any kind of problem with his local authorities in terms of any kind of violation of speech laws. France, of course, has speech laws just as Hungary does, unlike the United States. He has never had any kind of difficulty of this kind. What I've heard was that he was told that he is a notorious racial activist, and therefore he was forbidden to enter Hungary.
Are you aware of any court order that was handed down saying that you couldn't?
No. You are probably better aware of the Hungarian situation than I, but it was my understanding that the Interior Minister had ordered the police to make sure that this conference did not take place and that the speakers were not to be allowed to set foot in Hungary, and if they were found in Hungary, they were to be deported. That includes me. That's why I'm asking you not to film me.
Given that 70 people out of the initial 130 or so have made it to the conference, do you regard that as a success?
Again, I'm not sure I wish to call it a conference. We should call it, the French have a tradition of what they call dîner débat. And you have a dinner and you have a few speakers. It's now really a dîner débat. But yes, I consider that quite a triumph, given that we have been forbidden by the authorities to gather. I suppose the authorities would assume that this dîner débat is itself in violation of their orders. My presence in Hungary, as I understand it, is in violation of their orders. So to the extent that yes, that half of our effectives are present and enjoying a convivial dinner, I consider this a crashing success.
How did you enter Hungary? Did you come in directly, or did you find a roundabout way like Richard did?
No, I didn't do anything, and there was no subterfuge required at all. I flew into Belgium, and from Belgium I came to Hungary. There was no passport control when I entered Hungary. The passport control took place in Belgium, and I was asked only the most routine questions.
Did Mr. Dugin send you any messages why he didn't come?
Yes, I just explained. The police authorities in Russia told him, you better bloody well not come.
Not only the Frenchman, but
yes, it was for both
despite
Dugin and
an
Vardon.
advisor of Mr. Putin.
I beg your pardon?
Despite of his advisor.
His relationship with Mr. Putin is something that I'm not privy to. I understand that he has the ear of Mr. Putin, but I don't know any more about this than you do.
Are you familiar with many of Dugin's views? I mean, Eurasianism or anything like that?
Frankly, I can't make head nor tails of Mr. Dugin's views.
A lot of the European planned speakers and a lot of the assumed attendees are members of very powerful now parliamentary parties. In America, you don't have any parliamentary representation. Why do you think that is?
That's a very interesting question. I think because we have, as the British have, a first-past-the-post electoral system. We have a very rigid two-party system. We have never had proportional representation in the United States. It's very difficult to run as a candidate and not be either Republican or a Democrat. In that respect, I think democracy is far more restricted in the United States than it is in many European countries. I'm convinced that if people who hold my views were part of a proportional representation system, that we would have 15%, 20% of the vote, 30%, I don't know. I know that the left is constantly describing us as either insane or evil or ignorant or all three. That's simply not the case. They are, frankly, terrified, I believe, that people who hold positions like mine or like Richard Spencer will have an opportunity to speak openly and publicly. In any case, I believe that if Americans had an opportunity to vote for my views, I believe many of them would. But our political system is not set up in a way that makes that possible or practical.
What are you going to do about that?
That's a good question. I think it may be possible to run as a Republican under certain circumstances. But that is something that we really are very, very far behind our European comrades. They have been much more successful at expressing themselves politically. We express ourselves according to freedom of speech rules. But, as I said before, even to have a meeting of American Renaissance, which is my own organization, when we've contracted with private organizations, the pressure is so great on them that they will not only cancel a contract and walk away from a substantial amount of revenue, but they will pay us penalties written into the contract. It's quite extraordinary that in what's known as the land of the free and the home of the brave, and what prides itself as this bastion of freedom of speech, that there are certain points of view, mine or Richard Spencer's, that have such difficulty finding a private venue to express them. At the present time, American Renaissance is required to find a venue that is publicly owned. We go to the state of Tennessee to hold our meetings. The state of Tennessee, Richard Spencer, NPI, they hold their meetings in what's called the Reagan Center. It's owned by the federal government because the private sector, which Americans are all supposed to adore and think is the solution to all problems, has utterly failed us.
I think a gentleman did just arrive there and started making phone calls, so I think the police may be about to come, I would guess.
Can I have just one more question?
Well, I'm not going to risk it. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure.
Is there any chance, like you
You
did
must
say,
not follow me. I beg your pardon. You can come a different way.
Okay.
But the BBC guys scared him.
BBC is honnan tudhatta azt, hogy milyen telefon?
BBC guy just
Valahogy ahhoz, hogy nem látok ott semmit, de ez egy erőteljes szereptévesztés.
I just think he wanted us to